young people are the future. They needed to show their creativity, so I tried to help them in the best way I could. That's the motivation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Devers, and this is Clever. Today, I'm talking to Marva Griffin Wilshire. Marva, among other things, is the founder and curator of SaloneSatellite. Many longtime listeners have heard us refer to Salone del Mobile, also called Salone for short, or Milan Furniture Fair in English. It's a major trade show that takes place in Milan, Italy, every year since 1961. Salone is the largest trade show of its kind and is widely considered to be the global epicenter of design for furniture, lighting, and all manner of home and hospitality decor. Marva founded SaloneSatellite 25 years ago as a special event within Salone that represents a showcase for young creative designers and graduate-to-be students from universities and design schools from all over the world. In its 25 years of existence, it's impossible to calculate the enormity of the impact of SaloneSatellite. It's launched thousands of careers, generated boundary and discipline-spanning partnerships and collaborations, and introduced the global design community to the profound talents and refreshing perspectives of the next generation of creativity, and vice versa. Marva was born in Venezuela, and Milan became her city of adoption when, in the 70s, she started to work in the field of design and furnishing. She began her career in PR communication at what was then B&B Italia, now B&B Italia, working with the owner and chairman Piero Busnelli. She became a correspondent in Italy for a number of Condé Nast publications, French Maison et Jardin, Vogue Decoration, American House and Garden, and American Vogue. In addition, for more than 20 years, she's been directing the international press office for Salone del Mobile, and since 2016, an ambassador of Italian design. With countless awards and accolades to her name, in May 2014, she received the very prestigious Compasso d'Oro 23 Lifetime Achievement Award. Known as the godmother of Italian design, Marva is also lovingly referred to as La Mama by the young designers she's championed. As you'll hear, she's wise, generous, curious, optimistic, and a profoundly powerful ally for the creative. Here's Marva.
My name is Marva Griffin Wilshire. I'm from Venezuela, and I live in Italy since the early 70s. It was in the university in Perugia, learning Italian. And also I was into journalism, and I wanted to write and read the right language. So then I came to Milan, and I started working in the design industry. I started working in a company that at that time was one of the most important furniture companies in Italy and maybe in the world. Was at that time B&B Italia. Now it's named B&B Italia. And then after all my career, I started working with magazines, for the Condé Nast magazines, the French Maison et Jardin and Vogue Decoration, and American House and Garden. And then I did also for Vogue, for Gourmet, Condé Nast publications in New York. And now then I started organizing shows, and I ended in Salone, in the organization of the Salone del Mobile di Milano, the Milan Furniture Fair, which is the largest furniture fair in the world. I was organizing some shows there and directing all the international press, because every year we have around 5,000 journalists coming from 180 countries to attend the Milan Furniture Fair.
It's a lot of work, and you are at the center of it all, and we are very grateful for your contributions. If you wouldn't mind, I would love to know a little bit more about you and your early years. If you could pull up some of the things that captured your imagination in your youth and some experiences that made indelible impressions that may have been instrumental in leading you to where you are.
Since I was a child, I was always at home. I'm one of eight brothers and sisters, and five girls and three boys. And we raised with my mother, my my father and my grandmother in a large home, and there was large home, beautiful home with a beautiful garden, and I was always taking care of the, let's see, since a child, the decor of my home. I was always very much like inclined about moving around the furniture at my place, cleaning up and setting up and cutting the flowers from my
Mm.
mother's flower garden. And that was it. And with my pocket money, I was buying at that time, when in my very, very early, I was buying the American House and Garden.
Okay.
And I was so lucky at the end, while in Milan, I was named correspondent for these magazines here in Italy. So that's my story.
That is a wonderful story. I'd love to ask you about cinema. I understand your father ran the 4 cinemas in your hometown and you spent the weekends at the movies. So,
Yeah.
do you think that that kind of storytelling has played a role in your...
Also, of all the many things that played a role, there's
Yes.
so many things involved. But the cinema was, because we were like, if we had good behavior during the week, on weekends we had free entrance to the cinemas to see a lot of movies. So that was it. It helped a lot. I'm still very interested in movies. Like the other night, I couldn't. I went to bed. It was like 5 in the morning Italian time when I saw all the Oscar ceremony. So I'm very much interested about movies, about cinema.
Do you also pay attention to production design and costume design and all aspects of the creation of a cinematic endeavor?
Yeah, I see. I pay attention to all what is surrounding this subject, all what's happening, the production,
Yeah.
the actresses, actors, what's happening, the settings, and everything. I really much enjoy it.
I ask because I'm sure, and we'll get there when we start to talk about SaloneSatellite, but that's a production in and of itself that is of huge proportions, and so much has to come together. And to me, it reminds me of an Oscars or a kind of show of that scale that requires such syncopation with everybody involved in order to create this amazing spectacle that leaves a lasting impression and sets the discourse for the coming year around design.
Well, yeah, it is. It's every today what I'm interested, all of these, all what is happening, it's like I put them all together.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's interesting because going to the cinema, looking at a movie. There is so much things involved, and it's sometimes related to the design. I find always something that may interest me in a movie, which is related to design, or which is related to fashion, or which is related to the furniture and
Mm-hmm.
decoration and so on. So everything is like put together. So
Yes.
it's interesting. It's very interesting.
I think so. And that makes sense. I'd love to hear about your transition to Milan in your early career. I mean, doing PR for C&B Italia, which became B&B Italia, really immersed you in this world of Italian design.
Yes, I was very, very lucky to answer. There was an ad in the newspaper that was the CEO of CNB Italia, was the very beginning of this very important company at the early 70s. And this Mr. Busnelli, who was the CEO with his partner, Cesare Cassina, he had no secretary at that time. At that time, the word system did not exist. Now it's assistant, but at that time, and there was a beautiful ad asking for someone who knew several languages, who was able to translate, because they spoke Italian and their dialect from their region. So I got the job,
Mm-hmm.
and I made it. It was a very, very interesting. It was at that time all the top iconic architects that are really the design of the 50s, launching the real Italian design,
Mm-hmm.
were there. And Mr. Busnelli was very, I don't know if he was clever or not, but he said to me, I should not have an office, but my desk will be in his office. So he wanted me to know, to be aware of all what was happening to this company. And I was very, very lucky to sit there and see all these architects walking in with a paper, the idea of a piece of design, and then able to see all the developing of these pieces that are now iconic pieces from the early 50s.
What a fascinating education. Were you just soaking it up? Did you enjoy that aspect of it?
Of course, that was this is the reason why I'm able to do what I'm working now, because I learned so much about all these major designers that are now, there are very few that are, thank God, they are alive. Like Gaetano Pesce, who I'm sure you have known. He lives in New York. He's 86 years old, and he's still around doing fantastic things. And Mario Bellini, they were like in their early 30s or whatever. So it was fabulous what I learned from all these people, and traveling also with Mr. Busnelli and Mr. Cassina all over the world, opening markets and visiting companies, big like DuPont de Nemours in Wilmington, Delaware, or in the Herman Miller in Grand Rapids in their headquarters, because this company was using all their materials. So it was very interesting. In Germany, a Bayer with all the polyurethane that was used for all the furniture, all the seatings, cushions, all the seatings. I always say that I will never have learned in any design school all what I learned in the 4 years I was there.
Wow.
And at the same time, there were no communication. First, I started with communication while traveling with them. I was inviting press to promote the company, to promote the products, and I developed the communication and PR office, which I did when I quit. When I left working full time in the company, I was asked by Mr. Bonelli, after Condena France asked me to work with them. He said, but you're not going to any competitor, to any company. You should continue to do the communication as a freelance, which I did. I asked Condé France, and they said they agreed, and I continued to do it for like 15 years after.
So I have a couple of questions. You had mentioned earlier languages were important to you. How many languages did you speak during this 4 years, and how important was that to the work you were doing with Busnelli?
Yeah, well, four and a half.
4.5 languages. Impressive.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense to me that you'd be at the center of international press with your diversity of languages, because I'm sure a big part of communication is understanding how to translate messages across cultural boundaries. I would love to know what compelled you to move from this position to Condé Nast. What were you interested in? And was this a sort of a pull to go to those magazines?
As I said, I was approached as journalism. So Condé Nast was my magazines, okay? So I was asked, they needed someone in Italy to run the magazines, to be correspondent of the magazines for Maison et Jardin, which was the French house and garden.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did Vogue Decoration, which was a top class magazine. We built it. We started it from the very, very beginning. And then while doing this work for Condé Nast France, the editor-in-chief of American House and Garden came to Milan, and he said to me, and he approached me and he said, Marva, you're doing a good job for the French. You have to do it for us. So then I started doing the same work for American House and Garden. And then I don't know, they all started. Traveler, Condé Nast Traveler, American Vogue. When Anna picked up American Vogue, I was also doing collaborations for Vogue. So that's it. That's the story with magazines.
Well, I mean, these were the magazines you were looking at as a child. On some level, did it feel like a resolution or a confirmation?
No, I was lucky to end up what I loved as a child. And looking at, I worked when I wrote to my mom saying I'm becoming correspondent for American House of Garden. She said to me, it's incredible, Marva, that you, she's Spanish, she used to call me Marvita in Spanish. She said, Marvita, es imposible que la maravilla que estás trabajando para estas revistas. Impossible, it's incredible that you're doing this work for these companies, these magazines that you loved since you were a child. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was, I'm a lucky person, and I dream, and my dreams come true. That's it.
That's a wonderful power quality. Okay, so I really want to hear the origin story of SaloneSatellite. It's such an important show across the globe, and it champions and offers a showcase of emerging designers, which really helps young designers get their feet under them in terms of the industry. And I just would love to hear from you what compelled you to found this show and how it's evolved over the years.
Well, allora, in 1997, I was still collaborating with, because I was organizing a show, Editors, Fabrics for Furnishing, in Venice, with incredible brands that started doing fabrics for furnishing. They were in the fashion world, fabrics for fashion, and now they started for furnishing. That was like Etro and Mantero. And then the CEO of Salone, who knew me because I was, the very first year I started working with C&B, I was involved with the fair with Salone Mobile, because B&B C&B Italia was one of the top exhibitors in this fair. So I knew him. So I used to invite him. He used to come to Venice to see what I was doing there. And he will see all the press I was inviting, because in the meantime, working for the magazines, I had a lot of colleagues around the world when I go to the fairs and so on. Anyhow, he said to me, Marva, I want you to come to Salone del Mobile. I need you there. So I came to Salone and I started organizing a show, the accessory show for Salone.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but I was still working for my magazines. And during the week of Salone, I will go around the city to see all what was happening. And I wanted to visit to see what the young designers were doing. Some of these young designers knew me, knew who I was, and they just started begging me, Mrs. Griffin, we know you are linked to Salone del Mobile. We want to be there. We want to be inside, because we are here. Those who could afford it, they will rent a space and be in the city to see in very small spaces to show their creativity.
Mm-hmm.
But their interest, what they were after, was not really what they wanted it, because they wanted to show their creativity to the manufacturers, to the producers, in order to mass product their creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to show this was to be inside Salone del Mobile. So they told me that they start asking me about this. So I spoke to the CEO of Salone. At that time was Mr. Mario Melini, who was the CEO for Salone, and I told him about this. I said, listen, they're the young people. And anyhow, days after, weeks after, he called me and he said, Marva, there is a space. In the meantime, they were given a space by the Milan Fairgrounds. There is a space where you can have what you're thinking of. And he said to me, see what you can do to bring in the young people into the fair, into Salone. Because at that time, this was 1997, there were no institution, no fair taking care of putting attention to these young people, these young designers. They were really in a need to show their creativity. And this is the whole story. This is the story. I got the space. I did a project. I went back home to my studio and I wrote a project. I think of it. I did a few phone calls to Paris, to New York. I spoke to colleagues. I told them what I was doing. And this is the start of SaloneSatellite. So this meeting with him was at the end of November. And I had to, then that was Christmas. I went home and I started working for the issue 3 months because the Salone was in April. That's it.
You had 3 months to pull off the first Salone Satellite in 1998.
The first Salone, yeah. Because it was at the end of November when we agreed. And then I had a meeting in New York with my great friend, and he was the editor-in-chief for House and Garden. It was the one who hired me for House and Garden, Lou Gropp. And I spoke to Lou and I told him, and I said to him, I'm going to start doing this for young designers. And I would love to maybe invite schools because maybe they will be bringing the graduates to come to Salone to participate. And they will be the ones, once graduated, they will come to SaloneSatellite. And he said to me, Marva, you know what? We have a reportage in House and Garden with the Parsons School of Design.
Mm.
And he put me in touch with Tony Whitfield, who at that time was running the. So Parsons was one of the first schools I invited. I was in New York and I had the time to speak to him. When I got back to Italy, I told Mr. Armelini what I was going to do with the schools, and that's the start of it.
I'm so happy to hear that story. I had the really good fortune of being in Satellite 2 years later in the April 2000 Satellite with Rhode Island School of Design. I exhibited my work with fellow students.
Okay. In 1998, I had 8 schools. And one of the international was Parsons from New York, and like German and then Italian schools. But anyhow, in these 24 years of Salone, I have more than 350 international schools from all over the world.
Wow.
And they're still asking, some of them, when they come to know, they're still asking to participate because they are invited. And I give them a free space to participate in order to bring along a selection of their graduates to be who work on a project or separately or a common project, and to show their creativity, and they see all what's happening in the fair, in Salone del Mobile. They go around to visit all the pavilions, all the exhibitors. And once graduated, they are coming back to SaloneSatellite as an exhibitor themselves to show their creativity.
And it is a foundational, door-opening, community-building experience that absolutely helps to, I think, speaking from the position of a young designer as I was in 2000, it just helps to understand the landscape of global design so much more intricately. But not only that, but to feel a part of it and to make friends who are also engaged in it. It's a really, really important experience.
This is very interesting because you have all these Japanese with American and Italians with Koreans. It's very, very interesting because the many schools, they all get together, they're there, and they exchange. From there, they start are working together with a partnership soon after, which they continue. So it's interesting for them.
Well, I want to thank you for that. And now, 25 years later?
This year, yeah.
I am now faculty at Rhode Island School of Design, and RISD's exhibiting again at Satellite. And I'm very excited for this exhibition. And I want to ask you how the show has evolved over the years. I mean, obviously it's grown to 300 schools from 8.
Oh, yes. From 8 to 300 in a total. Every year I have SaloneSatellite has a subject. And last year the subject was the schools. It was the name was Building Design Schools and Universities, Building the Impossible. Okay? So it's going to be very, very interesting.
Everyone is very excited about this. And
so we have also Royal College of Art. And this year we have 22 schools coming.
Amazing. I want to ask you personally, I mean, this is an enormous contribution to the design world and to emerging designers, but What personally matters most to you about this whole endeavor? And it's an incredible amount of work and work that you've nurtured and cultivated for 25 years. What is most important to you, Marva, about this?
Listen, Emmy, time runs so quickly. So for me, 25 years, 1998 for me was yesterday. Really, it was really my commitment was I knew what this young designer. Listen, I was raised in a family, as I said, 8 brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
I have like 18 nephews, and I was always surrounded at home by young people from every age, and it's beautiful to. I love to be around young people. I'm a mother of one son, and I think the young people are the future. They needed to show their creativity, so I try to help them in the best way I could. That's it.
Wow.
That's the motivation.
That is beautiful. Thank you. And you've been doing this for a while, but you sound younger than most in terms of your energy, enthusiasm, and passion. I want to ask you we talked earlier about how all of these things influence your languages, cinema, your interest in rearranging furniture and arranging flowers, all factors into your overall creativity. And throughout your career, you've exercised your creative agency with regard to communication, curation, building a platform, this Satellite, and cultivating its importance and prominence. How would you mentor someone who aspires to something similar as you, but maybe in another industry?
First of all, for me, I'm a very curious person, okay?
Okay.
I want to see everything. I would love for the day to have the working day instead of, I say, 10. I come into my office at 9:30. Maybe I have a break because I live close to my office. I go home for lunch. If I don't have a working lunch appointment, which happens like weekly, 2 or 3 times in a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm here till 7 because of the timing, with New York or with Australia, Japan, and Seoul. Now I have to stay here. But anyhow, I'm very, very much involved I want to see all what is happening. And living in a city like Milan, who gives the offer is incredible. Even though you while you're here and you don't know where to go, you will say, "Oh, what should I do here?"
Mm-hmm.
I'm very interested in music. I'm a subscriber of a pro of concerts at La Scala. I want to see all what is happening with art. I have great friends. I go, So I enjoy. I'm a golfer when I have.
You're a golfer. I love it.
So on weekends, I don't practice it that much because I have a replacement on my left knee. So sometimes I do it, but I used to a lot. I am very proud to say that I have quite a lot of cups that I won in tournaments.
I love learning this about you.
So, I have I must say, for me, I love the way my life and so on. I try to enjoy myself.
It sounds like it. I'm having some envy here. I would love to live a few days in your shoes or in your world, at least. You've also described yourself as optimistic, and it does sound like your optimism kind of keeps you buoyant with energy for these things that you're curious for and for the work that you do.
Yeah, I will always go ahead. I just do it. If you can, if it doesn't work, try again. That's my motto.
Have you ever been in a state where your optimism has been shaken? And if so, how do you recover? How do you bring yourself back?
Of course, not everything is beautifully every day. You have ups and downs. But I try to stand up again. That's it, as I said. If it doesn't work today, and I think that tomorrow it will. So that's it. Sometimes it works. Of course, sometimes I'm down, but I try to be more positive in life.
So you've been interviewed a gazillion times over the years. And I'm wondering now that this particular interview is going to go out to the listeners in your own words and in your own voice, is there anything we haven't covered that you want people to know about you, that you want to share?
I should say a word in Italian. Basta. You know what basta means?
No.
Basta. It's enough.
Enough. Okay.
It's enough. It's so there's always there are some nice interviews. I don't know if you read what came out last year. The Pinup magazine. You saw that?
Yes, I read that. That was a great interview, I thought.
That Michelle Wilkinson from the Afro-American Museum in Washington. She was very nice, very clever. She interviewed me, and we became friends. And she wanted everything. And she ended saying that I should write a book, and I said, "No, why should I write the book?" She said, "Marva, you have to do it."
Yes. Well, I do want to let you know, Marva, people are more interested in you and your personal story than you might believe. And I'm really grateful for you being here today and sharing so much of your story. For those of us that are visiting Milan for Design Week this year, in addition to SaloneSatellite and Salone del Mobile, what else should we be paying attention to? What would you like to highlight?
There will be our show, an exhibition on SaloneSatellite. It's called Universo Satellite, SaloneSatellite Universe. And the curator is this design critic, Beppe Finesse. It will be in Triennale di Milano. Triennale is considered the design museum. It's the design museum and many other things for the city of Milan. So it's going to be there opening on Tuesday, 16th. They should come all. They should visit Salone del Mobile in Rome, where you were there with your school, because we have more than 400,000 visitors, retailers, architects, all the people involved in this design world coming from abroad wants to visit Salone del Mobile. We as press, because I also running the press for Salone. I traveled since November with the president, Maria Porro, who is for the first time the president of Salone, and is a young woman, lady of 40 years old with 3 children, and she's running her family. Her grandfather, one of the founders of Salone del Mobile 62 years ago. And with her, we traveled, and the general manager, we traveled to more than 14 cities in the world, from Shanghai to Paris, London, Copenhagen, Berlin, Miami, Toronto. I was alone in Toronto, then Dallas, New York. And then I did last week I was in Madrid. And now Saturday I'm heading to South Africa, Johannesburg and Cape Town, where I have conferences in 3 universities to addressing the students there. And then I have a talk as a ambassador for Italian Design Day in Johannesburg and Cape Town. So, and then back to Milan. We're starting soon after Easter. We have to start going to the fair to do all the setting of all what's happening.
My goodness, Marva.
Very, very busy time.
Very, very busy. Your energy and stamina is impressive, to say the least.
I always say Salone is a big, big cake, and everyone wants to take a piece of the cake during that week, okay? So there are things interesting, like, something that I recommend to go and see is there is organized by Gilda Boiardi, which is the editor-in-chief of Interni magazine. She puts together at the University Statale, you will find it in the guide that is giving all over, a very, very interesting program of inviting architects doing installations. Very, very interesting. That's very, very important to see.
Okay.
Okay. And then in Salone del Mobile, when you come into Salone, you will see there also we have guides, and you will see on our website, we have incredible, important talks. We have, like this year, the first talk will be conducted by architect Francis Quere. You know who he is. Francis Quere, who won the Pritzker Award as an architect. And he's conducting a talk. Then we have the Japanese architect. Then we have the director of the Design Museum in London. Every day from Wednesday, we have this program at 11. And then in the afternoon, we have our top Italian architect, maybe Mario Bellini, who also is one of the iconics. He's 89 years old.
Man.
And he will be giving a message to all these youngsters about his career, because he has been a designer, very, very famous with Casina, B&B Italia, several. And he's an architect, also doing great things.
Yes.
This will be SaloneSatellite. And then we have the award ceremony on Wednesday that is presided by the president, is Paolo Antonelli from MoMA.
Yes.
And we give an award to the young designers, and the jury will decide who is the winner. And then there will be a round table with those 8 designers who were in SaloneSatellite in the past, and now they are internationally very, very important designers. And the last talk will be with Nasir Casamalis, who owned this company Luminaire in Miami, but he is an incredible person, and he also will deliver a message to all these young designers related to marketing, how to approach the market with their designs and their creativity. So that's all what's happening. There are quite a lot of things happening.
So much. All very nutrient dense. So you're supporting these young designers in so many ways, not just through getting them exposure to the international manufacturers, but also to the whole global design community. But you're also creating opportunities for education and exposure to lifelong careers. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the work that you're doing, Marva, and for the contributions you've made. This is really important, and I'm grateful. So thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for talking with me today, and good luck with all of your very, very busy schedule. And I hope I get to meet you sometime soon.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
This has been amazing.
Thank you. All the best. Ciao, ciao.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. For a transcript of this episode that includes links to Marva's references, head to our website, cleverpodcast.com. While you're there, check out our resources page for books, info, and special offers from our guests, partners, and sponsors. And sign up for our free Substack newsletter, which includes news, announcements, and a bonus Q&A from our guests. If you like Clever, there are a number of ways you can support us. Share Clever with your friends, leave us a 5-star rating or a kind review, support our sponsors, and hit the follow or subscribe button in your podcast app so that our new episodes will turn up in your feed. We love to hear from you on LinkedIn, Instagram, and X. You can find us at Clever Podcast, and you can find me at Amy Devers. Clever is hosted and produced by me, Amy Devers, with editing by Mark Zurowinski, production assistance from Alana Nevins and Anushka Stefan, and music by L1011. Clever is a proud member of the Surround Podcast Network. Visit surroundpodcasts.com to discover more of the architecture and design industry's premier shows.
If it doesn't work, try again. That's my motto.